plus Intel. So that is even not as big as Aegon. Okay. And then the second one, auto industry is pretty big. Ford plus BMW, it's about the size of Aegon. So that's give you a little bit something that you can relate to. Anyway, so although we are owned by Aegon, we are a broker and we partners with WFG. Okay. Now, what do we do basically? After we educate people, right? We actually help them to set up something that really works for them. So we don't just teach and then leave them to shop around themselves, but we actually handle everything holistically. So just a little bit of a bird's eye view for the newcomers, right? What actually things that you need to pay attention in your personal finance across your life stages. Okay, we start from early career for those people that just graduated from university, right? Or you have a daughter or son, so your kids just about to graduate. Guess what? In their early career, we really have to impose the savings habit and help them to manage that. Many people start with student loan, right? Car loan, right? So we need to teach them. And a lot of times they never really make money before because it was financed by the parents, right? So once they start making money, they really don't know how to handle it. The second one is now they are transitioning into young family. Our focus is to teach them to protect their income because this is the time that they started to buy house, right? Buy a lot, start consuming. So we need to help them to maintain a healthy cash flow too. College planning, now that, you don't plan college when the kids go to college, right? It starts day one when they were born. So there are two ways to plan academically and financially. How do I start saving for them? But how can I win some free money, right? Scholarship. And now we're moving into mature family. This is when you are in your late 50s, late 40s to 60s, right? Retirement tax strategies, what you can do. And here, this is you are in a retirement phase, right? 60 above to 70 above. This is the time that you need to find out, oh, is your 401k actually comes with a lifetime income? Because actually what really matters is what am I going to make? What income do I have every single month when I retire? It's not how big is my nest egg, right? So do I have a solution that provides lifetime income? And how about long-term care? What's going on? Every single state after Washington, right, is following Washington state to have a long-term care tax. So these are one of the things that definitely we want to take care of. And the last one is wealth preservation. How do we preserve our wealth from Uncle Sam and transfer the most effectively to our loved one? That's estate planning and final expense. So just a recap of our first hybrid life and IUL class from last week, because I know that there are some of the people that attended last week, but a lot of the people actually just joined the first time. So I'm going to do a quick recap. In our personal finance, right, we have two lines. The most important thing that we need to do is to build wealth, right? And so this is the first line is this. This is your wealth line. And as you build up the wealth line, it takes time. Guess what? As you start make money, right, and you want to put your money aside, you have few roadblocks. The first one is inflation, right? Is the money that you put in the bank or your investment, does it beat inflation? In the first class, we talk about the previous year inflation is 6%, right? Does your bank pay 6%? Or does your portfolio earn 6%? So this is the first roadblocks. The risk, how about the market risk, right? The market up and down. Do you have a strategy or you just hope, right? You just hope that the market goes up, right? And we say hope is really not a strategy. Now, when your money starts to accumulate to a certain point, you started to feel that taxes, oh, wow, it takes a lot out of your gain actually, right? So you need to have a way to manage your tax. And healthcare. When I started this industry, when I joined this industry 20 some years ago, when we talk about retirement, we don't talk about healthcare. We just talk about having a nice, comfortable lifestyle. But starting like about 8 10 years ago, right, healthcare started to emerge, right? This is a big, we need to allocate some of our asset into healthcare. So the question of, in our personal finance, actually there are three holes, meaning if you don't plan well, if you don't have a strategy, it's kind of like there is a holes in your savings. The first one is, what about if you live too short, right? Sorry, the second line, the second line is that as you build up your wealth, it does take time to build wealth because we don't have a big chunk of money to start with. And as you start building your life, you started to incur debt, right? Mortgage debt, student debt, car loan. And of course, the goal is to pay off the debt as soon as possible. But we need to acknowledge when we build wealth, sometimes unexpected happens, right? So what do we do in this type of situation? Many people start from the left side, which is, what if I live too short when I'm building my wealth, right? So what is your strategy to protect your family if you live too short? So with the proper life insurance, right? With Index Universal Life, one of the benefits is that you can get an income tax-free death benefit. And second is that what if you become sick, right? Sickness doesn't just happen in our old age. It can happen anytime. Then the IUL can also give you an income tax-free long-term care benefit. The last one is, what if I live long, right? You can actually use the hybrid life and IUL, protect your future when you live too long, okay? So that you can comfortably retire with an income tax-free cash value. So as you can see, it's income tax-free, income tax-free, income tax-free. So today we're gonna take a deeper dive on how do we max out this. But before we transition into the discussion about how we can use IUL, today I invited a special speaker, Zach from Nationwide. He is the expert of long-term care. And I would like him to basically share his personal story, even though he's very young, but he already experienced long-term care in his family. So these are the things that we don't really think about until it happens. But planning is about doing something before the worst happens, right? So without further delay, I'd like to bring up Zach.
Lee, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to take over the screen sharing here for just a few minutes. And yeah, my background was not in long-term care. 9 years ago, I graduated from college, a little bit longer than that, but I was in management at a logistics company, and I was working night shift, and I got married. And my wife, she said, Zach, find a day job. And I came to Nationwide. Nationwide's a Fortune 100 company. I knew it was going to be a great place to work, but I had no clue what I was going to do. And I came into Nationwide and I started learning about what does happen if you die too soon and having the protection for your family. And I realized that I wasn't protected and I needed to do that. Nobody had taught me. And I learned about long-term care. And when I thought about long-term care, I thought about nursing homes, I thought about older people, and I had misconceptions about what long-term care is. So what is long-term care? I'll give you a quick definition, and then I'm going to share with you the story and what happened in my life that impacted me so much. But long-term care is really support and services that an individual receives when they can no longer fully take care of themselves. So if you needed help with bathing or eating or dressing, and we call those the activities of daily living, somebody else needs to assist you. In order to be safe and to have some level of independence, you're going to need help. Well, that help's not free. And kind of like healthcare, but different, long-term care brings additional expenses that if you and your family are not prepared for, they can derail all of the rest of the great financial planning that you did for all of those years. So for many years, you fought to bring down that debt. You fought to bring up your wealth, and you have plans for that money, whether that's to enjoy retirement, vacation, to leave a legacy to your children, probably both. But long-term care is too expensive to ignore. So I know many of you purchased long-term care through kind of the Washington tax, and that's good. But we want to talk about why is that so good? What protection do you have? So we think about long-term care. And by the way, this is how an insurance carrier defines long-term care. It's simple. If you have a severe cognitive impairment like Alzheimer's or dementia, or you can't do 2 of 6 of those activities of daily living, your doctor fills out a form for Nationwide, you complete the paperwork, and you file, and you're on claim. But what is long-term care? Many people would say that it's nursing home care. I don't believe that's true. Actually, because of COVID, the last 2 years, only 10% of long-term care is currently being received in a nursing home. 70% of all long-term care is actually happening in home, whether that's your home, an individual's home, or maybe they're living with a family member. So when I came to Nationwide, it was 8 years ago, and I didn't know much about long-term care. My grandmother had type 2 diabetes. If anybody's familiar with diabetes, it's all about regulating your sugar. And we didn't know it because she wouldn't tell anybody she had dementia. Early onset, so she wouldn't remember to do things, and she forgot to eat dinner one night. She waited too long, and her sugar went down because she didn't eat, and she passed out. So she's in a house by herself. Nobody's planning to come over that day, and she is unconscious on the floor. It is a bad situation. Well, luckily, the neighbor came over, and he used to come over and bring groceries and check on her. And she's there on the ground, and he helped. He called the medics, and everything was okay. But from that day on, our family needed 24/7 care for my grandmother. So my mom, she has 2 sisters. So there's three sisters get together. My grandmother did not have a plan for long-term care. So what do? So the 3 sisters get together, and my 2 aunts, this is what they said. They said, we're really busy. We own our own businesses. What we need to do is this weekend, we're going to take mom on a mini vacation. And while she's gone, we're going to sell the house, and we're going to move her into an assisted living facility. My mom said, no way, don't do that. They said, what do you mean don't do that? Where did my grandmother wanted to be? She wanted to stay at home. So my aunts told my mom, they said, look, if we're going to do this and she doesn't go to a home, you're going to have to take care of her. And my mother became the full-time caregiver. My mom moved 3 hours from her kids and her grandkids, moved in with my grandmother, and took care of her full-time. Has anybody experienced that? Taking care of a family member for long-term care? 1 in 5 adults today is currently providing care to a family member. It's a problem that we're seeing in the US that really isn't addressed, and it's only getting worse. And for my mom, when she moved in with my grandmother and provided that care, she was trying to still work her job full time. She ended up losing her job. And when she lost her job, she lost her income. But she also lost some of her benefits at work. She also stopped contributing money to her retirement accounts. So she'll never have the 401k that my dad has, because she quit working to take care of my grandmother. She also quit working for a few years to raise children. So this has impacted her ability to build wealth because of this lack of a plan for long-term care. My grandmother ended up in an assisted living facility and then eventually a nursing home. And my wife and I went to visit her. And I went up, and I'll never forget it. I walked in, my wife and I saw my grandmother. I said, how's it going? She looked at me. She said, Zach, I have a plan. I'm getting out of here. I said, what are you talking about? You're getting out of here. Where are you going to go? She said, in the middle of the night, there's this train that comes. I am going home. Home care is the type of care that most people want. When we don't have a plan for long-term care, sometimes we don't get to choose where we receive care. We don't get to choose who provides our care. And it can be a burden on our families. So what long-term care insurance does, long-term care insurance is going to provide you options and resources with 3 goals. Protect your family. That's number 1. Protect the freedom of choice that you get to choose where you receive long-term care. Not the state of Washington, by the way. Not the federal government through Medicaid. I don't want them telling me where I'm going to receive care. I want to choose where I receive care. And third, you want to protect your finances. So it's family, it's freedom of choice, and it's your finances. For me, it was impactful watching my mom take care of my grandmother for those years. It impacted her financially, emotionally, physically. And we see that 3 out of 4 women today, when we look at who's providing care to a family member, 3/4 are women. 1 out of 4 caregivers is actually a millennial, but women tend to live longer than men. 75% of unpaid caregivers are women, and women tend to receive long-term care benefits longer, 50% longer than men. Now, it's important that men have long-term care insurance as well. Why? Because that protects their spouse. When a healthy spouse takes care of somebody that's chronically ill, they become chronically ill. So now that I understand this, now that I watched that happen with my mother, and right now, by the way, my grandmother, I have my other grandmother on the other side, my grandfather is sick and she's taking care of him. So I've seen this in my family over and over. I have my plan for long-term care so that if I need long-term care, my spouse is protected, my children are protected, my finances, everything that I plan to do to make sure that we're prepared for retirement isn't going to be derailed because I simply need long-term care. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I hope I don't need long-term care. I did not buy long-term care insurance because I hope that I need to use it. I hope I don't. That's why I have long-term care with a death benefit. So if I don't use the long-term care, I get back more than I paid in, whether I need long-term care or not. 20 years ago, you couldn't buy long-term care that way. 20 years ago, long-term care worked like auto insurance. Your rates weren't guaranteed. If you never used it, you would lose the coverage. If you died and you never filed a claim, you didn't get anything back. That's the old school long-term care. The new school long-term care is much better. There's death benefits, there's cash value, and there's no use it or lose it risk. Whether you need it for long-term care or not, you're still going to get value out of that policy. So that's what I like about today's long-term care, a lot different than it used to be. I want to spend just a moment, Dwee, on Medicaid and Medicare, and then I'm going to turn it back over to the group for today. And I got to share one more story. And this one has really been impactful for me because my grandmother and my grandfather, I grew up spending the summers at their house. I would go back there for like 3 weeks. And my grandfather last year got sick. He ended up with COVID, and he went to the hospital. And when he was there, nurses were taking care of him. They were helping him get out of bed, get dressed, go to the bathroom. They were feeding him. And he was better than he had been in a really long time because he was receiving long-term care at home and we didn't even know it. My grandmother had been taking care of him and he wasn't able to walk very well. He wasn't able to get up and cook anymore. So my grandmother had been taking care of him for a while and nobody really knew. So he goes to the hospital, has COVID, he recovers, and the doctor turns to him and says, "You're getting released today. Where are you going to go?" So everybody on the call, think for a minute, fast forward in the future. Let's pretend you don't have a plan for long-term care. You never expected it would happen, but now you're in the hospital and you do need long-term care. And a doctor says, "What's your plan? What are you going to do?" He was given 2 options. Go on Medicaid, stay in the hospital the rest of his life. There's a nursing home wing of that hospital. So some of you might hear, well, with Medicaid, if you give away your assets, you might be able to qualify and the government will pay for your care. That is a bad plan. My grandfather didn't get to say, well, I'll go on Medicaid and choose any nursing home I want. he would have been in that hospital the rest of his life in the nursing home wing. But more than that, he would have had to cut his income in half. My grandmother would have lost half of her income, and they would have had to give away or spend down actually a lot of their assets. You have to have less than $2,000 of assets in most states. So Medicaid wasn't going to work. That hospital was 30 minutes away from where my grandmother lived. She would not have been able to visit him. Who wants to be in a nursing home? The second option he was given was to go home. Go home. And he said, I'm going to do that. And the doctor got mad at him. My grandfather's 87 years old, and this doctor yelled at him. He said, what do you mean you're going to go home? How are you going to go home? Who's going to take care of you? What are they going to do? How are you going to pay for it? He said, I don't know, but I'm going home. And he did, and he went home. And my grandmother's taking care of him every day. And his kids, my parents, my aunts and uncles, they are paying out of pocket to pay for a nurse to come to the house as often as they can afford. It's about $35 per hour every time that nurse comes. Very, very expensive. And he's not even receiving close to full-time care. Not great options. Long-term care insurance, if he had a check right now from an insurance policy that he had purchased, coming to, just receive a check every month in the mail, he could say, here's my goal, by the way. Everybody on this call, here's what I hope for you. That I hope you're never in the hospital in a similar situation, but if you were, and the doctor said, are you going to the nursing home? Are you going home? You say, I'm going home. The doctor says, how are you going to go home? You say, don't worry about that, doctor. My agent, we took care of me 30 years ago. I have a policy. I have it all taken care of. My spouse isn't going to have to provide my care. I can afford the best care because I took care of this and I purchased long-term care insurance. That's what long-term care insurance does. The state of Washington, there's a tax. All of you know about that. That tax only purchases $36,500 of state qualified benefits. I don't want state qualified benefits. And I probably need a whole lot more than $36,500. So for those of you that were able to buy a plan, there are really good plans today that are out there, what you purchased. And I think about my own family situation. I think about how powerful it would be had somebody reached out to them, my grandmother, my grandfather, many years ago and helped them prepare for this in advance. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over. Last slide here, reach out to a trusted financial professional. Those are the agents that are on this call that work with World Financial Group. I've worked with them for 5 years. Great people and individuals. So thank you for having me on the call. Lee, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for sharing your personal real life experience, right? That many of us probably do not experience yet. And thank you so much for your support. Zach come up here, join us in a Zoom, and he's actually in Ohio. So he's 3 hours ahead of us. So, I hope that you take a good notes of his sharing. Thank you again, Zach, for joining us today. All right, so next speaker is we're going to cover about a deeper dive of IUL. Basically, one of the things that we need to pay attention in our financial planning is tax. How much the impact of tax on the gain or on the asset that we have built. Okay, so Matthew has been in the financial industry for 8 years now, and he's very experienced. And actually, during this Washington Cares Fund, he helped more than 100 families. So before I turn into Matthew, I probably need to give a heads up that maybe we will overtime a little bit because of the technical difficulty earlier, and also, with so many information that we have prepared for all of you, because we want to do a good job for you, and we don't want you to just own IUL to opt out, but actually you need to learn how to use it to the best. Okay, all right, go ahead, Matthew. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Let me actually just do a quick pull up the slide here. Can you guys hear me clearly? Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you guys can see the screen too, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome, great. All right. Well, thank you so much again, and thank you for the wonderful introductions to we. And I really appreciate it actually for everyone's that is like spending the time with us again in here tonight, and also Zach, wonderful sharing, and thank you for that. Like like long-term care is something actually is really real. Like not personally that I have a family actually that they have experienced that. But I have seen it actually. A few of my clients actually when I first started, when long-term care launch, like I witnessed it actually is how impactful for their families is because they, I was the one actually went to their home, talk about it, but I never really pursued them. And they actually ending up travel back to Taiwan, and the husband actually got a stroke and fall down actually in the bathroom. And from there, actually, he has been vegetables for the whole time. And if he actually would have gotten actually long-term care when I first met with him, he would have actually covered, like for that, and they don't have to actually financially suffer. But so this is kind of one of the reasons why I really do think long-term care is really important. But of course, we were taking a deeper dive into it. Like my sessions today is going to talk a little bit more about taxes, and I want to kind of like first, like we'll get into a little bit more about just the basic things first, like which is, what is the typical, like family asset allocations, and I want to share a quote with every one of you which is from Benjamin Franklin, back into almost like 1789. So this is his quote, like this world, nothing can be said to be certain except two things, which is death and tax. And we're going to talk about this like topic in here that actually is not something that you can like you can avoid or you can actually change, because this is really depending on the governments, and every single time, every day, you're going to pay tax. So vast majority of your family's asset are like it's like this. You're going to have like majority of your assets like maybe is in your house, like primary or rentals, it's all in real estate. And the second largest portions usually is your 401k or stock or like or mutual funds, like depending on who you are. And all of this, which like you can see is all in the tax box, like the red box is all subject to tax. And like and very actually small portions of the family's members, a lot of time they will place some of the money into the bank savings, which also very important. Those are not subject to market risk, but you see actually vast majority of the families, they like to put all of their money into the market risk, like portfolio. And when you take a look at a portfolio like this is actually very typical families portfolios. And I just want to see hands too, like how many of you think this kind of portfolio is a great portfolios to be in? I see some hands actually, like some people shaking their head, some people is like, okay, all right. So, I mean, you don't have to really answer it too much, but you can see it's like, well, I want you guys to really think about it. It's like from this free aspect in here, is, I think a little bit more from these factors. It's like, what about your asset risk? Like how many risks actually are you really taking from the portfolio? How much tax you are actually paying? And how flexible is your plan if some emergencies come up? And so then that's kind of why actually, if you do think about it from this free perspective, when you're planning our like family asset, we should really consider is how do we have a more balanced portfolio when we, like when we're planning for it, which is we should really think about is how to balance it off with risky investment, like, and also like having some of it is, like it's more safe investment. And also at the most important part is how to increase your portions of the tax-free portions in your financial portfolio. And which, like, in later on, we will talk about how to do it. And we'll also talk about why we want to do it. And the most important part, this portfolio, like it will achieve these three things is how do you reduce your risk, balance your tax burden, and also improve your flexibility. All right. So let's take a look at, like a little bit about like different type of tax, right? Like remember what I mentioned about Benjamin's, right? Like tax is inevitable. And most of the time, like I think every one of you agrees, like we pay a lot of tax. How many of you think actually you pay very little tax? I see a lot of people are smiling, like, yes, we pay a lot of tax, but how much do we really pay? Anyone want to take a guess? Or you can type, I don't know, actually, it's up to you. So, like, do you think the tax rate will stay the same all the time? I think this is kind of some of the questions that you guys can actually really take a look into it. So take a look in here, like from what you earn to what you purchase to what you invest, and even actually when you die, you will have to pay tax. And if you take a look back into 1980, we are talking about actually there's a lot of taxes that existing today is not even exist back then. And you see actually if you add it, like if you actually even do some math, it's like if you tally it up actually how much tax you pay, it will be a lot, and this is one of the things why we talk about in United States, you might pay tax in here and there, it might be very small amount, but you ending up actually paying quite a lot when it comes to, when you kind of put it up together. And also, which actually this would kind of, like it leads to something like this. It's like the second question I asked, right? Is the tax rate all staying all the same? And one of the major tax actually that we all pay, which is the federal income tax. Like this is kind of one of the things I remember 8 years ago. Very, when I first joined this company, this is the first things I noticed is like when they were talking about like the national debt, the U.S. national debt. I never thought about it, honestly. I always think U.S. national debt is like, oh, okay, well, I mean, it's big number. We talk about like $1 trillion, a lot of zeros. I don't really care much about it, at the time when I first joined. But I look back, like when I understand about this U.S. national debt, like when I look back at this, it's like, how many of you actually look at the recent U.S. national debt? Anyone can, you can type it on the chat and see, like take a guess again. How many of you actually know how much trillions dollars we have grown into? Some people? No one guess? We are talking about $29 trillion, which is 61% over 8 years of time when I first joined, comparing to now. What does it really mean? So it means actually is the US is not bringing in enough money to offset the debt, and our debt is continuously growing faster than how much US is collecting from tax. And if you're understanding this, like this, what does it really mean? Like is our tax rate is not going to remain the same all the time. Like we might even actually seeing a more huge tax, or maybe even actually seeing more taxes going to be raised by the US governments to be actually kind of offset the debt that they're actually creating right now. And this is one of the reasons why we need to actually leverage the current relatively low tax rate to increase the portions of the tax-free portions in your financial portfolio. And so when we talk about federal income tax, I don't think every one of you is actually, doing your tax return, or you even understand actually kind of how to look up your tax rate. Like some people just always think it's like, oh, I'm 24 or I'm 22. Like, is it really how it calculated? I'm just going to kind of give you guys some basic ground, like some basic idea. How does it really work? So what is considering income? So income have 3 different types of incomes in US. So the first one is personal service, which including your salary, commissions, business income. And the second one is portfolio income, which your like dividend, interest rate, capital gain, and etc. And that's also the third one is called the passive income, which is, if you have a partnership income, if you have a rental income, or if you have like later on when you're in life, you have social security, which is up to 85% of that actually could be taxable. And after you total all this income, like the IRS is very nice. They will say, hey, we're going to give you some adjustment. So what this adjustment is, like you can actually take this kind of adjustment, which is HSA, health saving account, which if you contribute into it, then you can actually reduce it. And if you have self-employment income, like there's a self-employment tax, one half of it can be considered as an adjustment. And if you're a small business owner, you can also use SET IRA to reduce your income, to adjust it to be lower. And after all the adjustment that you have made, those things, like the number that we call is called adjusted gross income. So from the adjusted gross income, then you also have to minus what the IRS allows you to take the deductions on, which is either the standard deductions or the itemized deductions. And if you're understanding it, itemized deduction used to be, it will be a very huge portions for a lot of you. If you own a home and if you pay income tax, but most of you most likely is in from Washington, so we don't have income tax. And used to be, if you live in some high-end areas, your property tax may be a lot. If you have a large mortgage, you can deduct a huge amount of, like deductions, but that's no longer the case for a lot of families. So those are some of the items actually is listed in there. I'm not going to go over it like too much. But with that being said, so after you subtract with all these deductions, like you can either pick one or the other, then what actually coming out is the taxable income. And from that taxable income, like you can actually put that into the left side tables, then you can compute how much tax you actually need to pay. All right, so that is actually very simple. And also there's some other tax tables that actually you guys can, take a look into it. I'm not going to, to dive into it, but just want to kind of let you see is like capital gain tax, like the long-term capital gain tax is treated differently comparing to the, like the income tax. Okay, so that actually is kind of something that lead to in the later on actually what we talk about. So now actually I want all of you to have some basic understanding about how to calculate your total tax, like you have to pay. And of course, if you're still confused about those pages, feel free to chat with one of our professionals to go over all those slides with you again. Like we're happy to do so with, any of you. Actually, just reach out to the person who invited you, okay? And now let's talk about actually how to reduce your impact on, on taxes. So in US, you have to understand there's 3 types of income exists. So taxable, so how does it work? So the contributions actually you make to the, like you make the contributions is after tax money. The accumulations, like during this time, there's also a tax form 1099 actually you might receive. And when you're distributing it, meaning when you're selling it, there's also capital gain that potentially is in there. So what are some of the options that you can actually put it in? So let's talk about actually is the risky portions, which is the stock, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, rental income. Those are some of the risky options that you can have. They're all in the taxable portions. And for some of you actually, if you have heard of it, like you might have of CDs, saving accounts. Those are more safer options, but some of you might question this like, hey, I put money in my CDs, but I never got the tax form. Well, great things for you, because you don't have to pay is because you earn less than $10. But the bad things for you is also, it's like you earn less than $10, then you probably want to rethink about actually, like why do you want to put the money into there? So the second actual options, is the tax later portion, which is the contributions is before tax dollars. So you don't pay any tax actually is during the accumulation phase, but you are paying tax, like at the end when you are taking the money out. So when you're taking the money out before 59.5, there's a 10% penalties. And also the governments also want you to kind of take the money out, they don't want you to hold the money in there forever. So after you're 72, like you will also require to take require minimum distributions from their account. And if you don't take it out, the government will say, hey, half of that amount will be us. And I'm sure that you don't want to do that. So what are some of the options you can have, which is the 401k, your pensions, your IRA account, or if you have a small business owner, you might have a SET IRA account. If you have real estate, investment, like 1031, sometimes those are actually some of this is in here in this particular category. Okay. And some of the more safer option is annuity. And this is the tax later portions in here. So what are some of the tax advantage, which is what I call is the tax-free portfolio. So you pay the money actually into it is already after tax. And when you grow the money actually is tax-free. And the most important part, when you take the money out, this money is tax-free. So these are some of the options which, like including the cash value life insurance, that we will talk about today. But before I dive into it, we will dive into it. I want to talk about two aspects of it first. So the first one is, is controlling your income tax when we talk about, like how do we actually reduce the impact, right? So income actually including your rental, personal, like pensions, stock, salaries, all that things adding up, remember what I mentioned. Why is it important actually to control your income tax, and how do you control your income tax, right? Remember one thing, the government's Uncle Sam, they are not your friends. Like Nationwide is on your side, but Uncle Sam is not on our side, okay? Like take a look at the tax letter in here, just very simple. From the first bracket, the tax rate actually increased, like 20% we're talking about. From 10% to 12%. It doesn't seem a lot, but we increased 20%, okay? And if you take a look into it, the second bracket is we're talking about increasing 83%. But if you take a look at the tax rate, we're talking about increasing only 10%, right? And even worse, if you take a look at the last tax bracket, from 24 to 32, it actually jumped another 34%. Some of you might think, well, like my income rate actually is sitting at maybe at 100,000 or maybe 200,000 if your husband and wife is working. Usually your guys are sitting at about more than 172,000 taxable income. Easily, you're going to get into actually the 24 tax bracket. And if you're including actually what you're investing into your stock, like all that actually investment, you might be easily pushing your income to even over 32%, which you're actually paying a lot more in tax. So this is one of the reasons why it is important to control your income tax and learning how to do so. And the second aspect, actually, when you talk about reducing income, like your impact on tax, is managing your capital gain. How do we managing our capital gain, right? Like, let me give you some idea in here. So if you have any capital gain, any capital gain is meanings is, like anything you sell. If there's a gain involving with it, if it's less than 12 months, it will be considered as an income tax rate. But anything actually, if it's held more than 12 months, those gain will be considered, like taxing at a more favorable tax rate. Remember what I mentioned earlier? Like there's a different tax table that actually they tax differently. When you put your emergency fund, let's just say when you just put your emergency fund into some kind of investment, and all of a sudden imagine that it's like you need to use that money for some emergency, right? But you have a substantial gain on that in like investment, and instead of selling your investment and take the capital gain hit, what you can do is actually, if you have a balanced portfolio, then you can actually use the money elsewhere. You could be possibly using, like the money from your cash value life insurance, take a policy loan out, and wait for your capital gain, like to be mature, to be more than 12 months. Then you can sell that. And then you can use the gain to actually pay off the like policy loans. And so what the outcome could be possibly is, like depending on, your tax rate, if your tax rate is 24, or maybe if you're in 32, you're basically shifting from 32% to only maybe treating you maybe 10, maybe actually 0, maybe actually 15, maybe 20%. That's a substantial actually, reduce in the capital gain. So that is kind of one of the things why having a balanced portfolio, you can actually like change, like use money from everywhere. But of course, like to dive into like now you have some ideas, like, oh, so I can use this, right? Use that way. So what is the cash value life insurance? What are we really talking about in here? And most of you in here today, like you get this solutions, which is called Index Universal Life. It's also called IULs, like what we call it in here. And how does it really benefit you is because, and how does it really work? It has two parts into it. So the first part is the insurance part, and the second part is the cash value part. And to give you guys just some brief idea, how does it work? Because most of the people actually, they always tell me, it's like, oh, it's the premium that I pay, those are the costs. And most people, let me just frank, I think most people, most of you also thinking about the same way. It's like, oh, the premium I pay, those are the costs. But that actually is not the cost. So the premium, actually, you have to take out the premium charge when the account. How does it work? It's like you take out the premium charge. So then the money will coming out actually is called the index account values. And then using the index account values, they would take out the admin cost, they would take out the cost of insurance or any rider, which is the long-term care riders. And then whatever actually, like let's say if you're choosing the index universal life, you will be crediting interest based on how the index is performing. So adding all the credit interest back to you, and whatever is left, that is the cash balance. So this is how it works in this plan. And I don't understand, actually some of you might think it's like, oh, this is still confusing. I hear the concept. How does it really work in the real life numbers, right? And I want to bring up my good friends in here because, like talk about math, like this guy is a very good guy, like he's a very logical guy too. Not logical, but, like he's a very, like very experienced speaker, I would say. Like he was going to talk to you and walk you through all these examples and numbers and making sense out of all of this concept. And I want to introduce Kevin in here, and let's welcome actually Kevin's, like to the stage, and he can share with us more about how all this number work out. All right.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. Wow, Matthew, I learned so much from him. He's one of the tax experts in our office. Every time when I have some question about the tax, he's our go-to guy. Okay, he's just he does the tax. He also do a lot of the financial planning, help many people out there. All right, thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. Okay, hi guys, my name is Kevin. Okay, so due to the time limits, I don't want to introduce too much about myself because we do have a lot of the contents that we want to share with you, because the index universal life with long-term care, this great solution, great strategy. We utilize this strategy to do a lot of the good things for the families. For the past 2 or 3 months, I believe that most of the friends right here, you contact one of our associates right here, mainly because we want to opt out the long-term care tax from the Washington state, right? We don't want to pay the tax. However, just like imagine this one, okay? If you really need to buy, if you really need to make a phone call, for example, right? The only thing you want to know is just give me a phone, okay? Just give me a phone. Then I want to make a phone call. That's it, right? But when we give you the great solutions such as like iPhone, there are so many good features that iPhone can provide, but not many people is actually interested or they don't want to know. So today we take the time. We also appreciate you guys, the friends or clients, that you also want to invest your time with us to learn how good this index universal life, this strategy can help you and also your family. Okay, so later I'm gonna maybe spend maybe 20 minutes or so to dive into how this strategy can help us in many different ways, such as Matthew mentioned earlier about how we can save some tax, and also Dewey mentioned about how we can utilize this one as part of our retirement. So timing wise, just probably will take at the end of this webinar, we probably run through 8:30, run a little bit behind and then the schedule a little bit, okay? So that's going to my slides right now, okay? So from the class 1, which happened last week, we talked about some good features about this index universal life. One of the good features is this strategy gives us the flexibility in funding. For example, in this case, okay, this case just mainly we use the same case that we explained last week, but right now we use the same case that we were going to dive into deeper for the content, okay? Basically, for this male, 35 years old, pretty good health, okay? So for him, okay, he can have 500,000 as the protection amount for the family, for the loved ones, okay? Then his basic contribution will be $385 a month. That's the basic contribution. But if you still remember, actually, we can contribute more into the policy from the tax purpose to saving more tax. Later, I'm gonna show it to you, okay? So we just start with the basic contribution right here first, okay? So as you can see, 385, that's, $10 a day. We do the contribution static basic saving contribution to the age that like 67 years old, right? So, at the end is the total contribution will be almost $147,000, okay? And don't remember, Matthew just mentioned the contribution we put in the index universal life is not all the cost, right? It's not all the cost. At the same time, when we start, even though the first month, when we just save $385 into our policy, then our family got 500,000 debt protection already. Isn't that great? Okay. So the other one, as you can look at from the screen, is the we saved $385 into a month into the policy, and portion of the money will be saved inside the policy. We call it cash value. As you can see, cash value also compiling from year 1 all the way to age 67, right? So right here, as you can see, at the end of the age 67, we save about almost $300,000 inside the policy, and also the death benefit, the protection for the family will goes up to almost $800,000. Right here, as you can see. Okay, so for example, if the reach age 75 years old, then even though we stop contributing, if you can look at that one from the left column, right? Even though we stop contributing the policy, however, our money saved inside the policy continue working for us, continue compounding, growing and growing. At the same time, our death benefit will also increasing. So for example, at age 75, from the illustration right here, we have like about 800,000 death benefit right here. And if we do need the long-term care benefit, if we do need a long-term care service at a time, right? And, we can take it like almost 16,000 a month, 16,000 a month. That's, no income tax consequence at all. Okay, so that will give a lot of the relief to the family when we need the services. Okay, do you agree that? Okay, so the next one is also last week we also mentioned about, and we also can contribute more if we have more resources. Okay, from this illustration, as you can see, same guy, John, 35 years old, everything is the same. Okay, so the only difference is that he also start with the 500,000 protection. However, he can save more. The max contribution he can save is $2,450 a month. That equals somewhere around maybe close to $30,000 a year. So what he does is that he just do the contribution in the first several years. That's it. That's it. Okay. So total contribution into the policy will be $105,000, but the outcome will be totally different. Okay, just like right here, if you can see, from the death benefit or from the cash, the policy value, right? The policy value by the end of the age 67 is almost $500,000 for the policy value. At the same time, the death benefit is also 1 million, roughly 1 million already. Think about this one. You contribute, your contribution into something is about 100,000, right? But at the end, 30 years down the road, at the end, you can bring out more value for you or for your loved ones. That's how this powerful strategy can be. Okay, so same thing. If we look at age 75, when we might need the long-term care. Well, just basically me and Zach, I totally agree with him. Okay, I have my personal life insurance with long-term care, right? But I hope by God's grace, I will not need a long-term care service, okay? But just in case, if when I do need one, then I do have the resources, I can, relieve a lot of the pressure from my family, especially on the financial side, okay? So from this one, you can take a look at when I need the long-term care service at age 75, then I can access 20,000, almost 20,000 per month, income tax-free. Okay, per month, and also is income tax-free from my policy. So for this strategy, I can use the benefit onto myself, or I can leave it to my next generation. All right. So later on, I'm gonna show you more slides about how this strategy can work for us. Okay, some people might say, "Oh, right, okay, the cost of the insurance. I mean, the insurance is really, really expensive." Okay, have you ever thought about that one? If you do, you can just put in the chat room and say, "Okay, +1." Okay, but I want to bring you another perspective is that so some people might say, okay, paying the cost of insurance, or consider the other way is, hey, do you want to pay the tax? Okay, I hope, not sure how many of you right here would love to pay more tax than you should. Okay, but when we can also look at from a different perspective. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so when we look at the basic contribution, right? This is how we just show you a couple slides ago. On the basic contribution right here is our contribution is almost 150K, right? So we have, protection wise, we have 800,000. 800,000. I hope that we don't use that one too early, but when we do need that at age 67, right? We have 800,000 protection for the family, for the loved ones, okay? And this is again, income tax free, okay? And the other thing is, so from the credit, interest credit, if you can look at here, right here, interest credit along the way, right? We accumulated interest about $200,000, and then you never ever need to pay any of the income tax at all. You will not receive 1099 from the insurance company, never ever, okay? And then your saving, look at this one. It depends on the income tax bracket you have, just like Matthew briefly mentioned, right? Depends on how your income tax bracket. I assume right here, most of us, maybe like our income tax will be 25, 30, 37. I don't know about yours, but the higher income you make, which means the more tax you're gonna save through the strategy, through this index universal life strategy, okay? And think about this one. Let's say, for example, you have 200,000 interest you gain from any other different vehicles, okay? Any other different vehicles, okay? You can receive 200,000 interest from the bank, for example, okay? I don't know which bank will give you such a, but which means if you want to have 200,000 interest from your bank, that means you need to accumulate like a huge capital, right? Because we all know right now interest rate is what? Down to what? 0.1, 0.2%, right? Okay. So, but anyway, so if you receive 200,000 interest from the bank, so your income tax is about maybe 50K or 75K, right? But if you have to sell your investment, it's a long-term capital gain, right? Long-term capital gain, do you remember how much the percentage you need to pay the tax? It's about 20%, right? Okay, so that means you have to pay 40,000K. But if you receive the interest from your index universal life, how much tax do you need to pay? If you can type in the chat room, that'd be great. Okay, that means that you guys are following me. Otherwise, I keep talking, I might lose you guys, and I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so if you receive any single penny, even down to 1 penny from your index universal life, you don't have to pay any single income tax at all. Okay, this is total income tax-free vehicle. Okay, so how good is that? So you can consider you want to pay the tax, or you want to pay the so-called cost of insurance to the company. As you can see, even though for the cost of insurance right here, if you can see right here, the total cost, this is the total cost right here. It's only about maybe $51,000. Okay, that's the total cost paid to the insurance company for the, for 30 years. So you can consider, okay, you want to pay the same cost, which one will bring you more value, to you and your family? I think the answer is quite easy, right? Okay, the next one, we're gonna take a look at another one is, okay? So let's say if you do have some resources, you want to do the max contribution. So this is how the numbers look like. Same thing, when you do the max funding, right? So your contribution, total contribution is 1005, okay, 105K. And then the protection-wise, up to until age 67, you will receive almost 1 million protection. Again, it's income tax-free, right? So the next thing is you will get 440 interest in return. If you can see right here, net interest, right? You can receive almost 440 along the way, okay? Then again, since you receive more interest, that means what? The more tax you will save, okay? So we just put a chart right here. So either you do the basic funding or you do the max funding, right? So of course, when we use the max funding, you can save more, you can save faster, you can compress your time, right? But we do know that most of the people, if they don't have too many resources, right? Of course, they can do the basic funding, because don't underestimate the $300 per month that can do for you and your family along the time, 30 years or 25 years, along the time, this like $10 a day of saving will bring you very good in return, in result for you and also for your family. So you can save, of course, the more you save in the beginning, the more you can receive at the back end. But I want to bring out this one to you is it doesn't matter if you can do basic funding or max funding. It is flexible. It is flexible. Okay, you don't have to, you are not stuck with the basic funding, you cannot put more, or you are not stuck with the max funding. You have to contribute that kind of money. No, you don't have to. It's very flexible for you. So it gives us many flexibility for us based on our cash flow. Okay, but it doesn't matter how much you contribute or what's the contribute way, what is the base funding or the max funding you saved inside the policy, as you can see right here, right? So every single interest rate you gain from the index universal life, you don't have to pay any income tax. That's from the tax perspective you can save. Okay, not to mention, when we have the protection, then we have the, we have the more death benefit or living benefit that we can receive later on when we need it. I want to bring you another one is, okay, like we mentioned earlier, actually, we can utilize this index universal life as part of our retirement income. Okay, how do I say that? Let me show you some slides right here, okay? So let's say, for example, I just say for example, all right. So we don't know what's the future tax rate will be, but we just put it in here, right here. I just say for example. So let's say future tax rate, future tax bracket, okay? From $0 to 50K is about 15%, all right? From 50K to 160K, the income tax rate is 25%, all right? And above the 160K to 300K, the income level would be, the tax rate will be 30%. Let's just say, for example, all right? So there's a couple who needs the 150K annually as a living expense when they retire, okay? And then, if all their resources has to come from the, most of people, their retirement probably will think of would be like 401K, the Social Security, or some, rental income, or some kind of like an investment, those kind of thing, right? So all this income are taxable. You don't pay any tax yet, so you need to pay the tax. So let's say, for example, and then let's say if this couple needs 150K annually, okay, if you can see after tax withdrawal is 150K, right? But actually they have to take the money from their tax deferred plan more than 150K, right? Because those money has never been taxed before. So how much total the pre-tax money they need to take it out is 195K right here, $195,715. What is that? Let me explain to you. Because in the first level 1 tax bracket between from the $0 to $50,000, you have to pay 15% tax, right? So the tax will be 75,000. The next level will be 27,500 tax. The next level will be $10,715. So you have to pay total. You have to pay $45,715 the tax in order for you to receive after tax money 150K. Does that make sense to you guys? If it makes sense, could you just give me some, okay, understand, whatever, you can type in the chat room. All right. So that is how it looks like, okay? However, let's say, for example, if this couple have another vehicle, the different vehicle, okay? They have tax deferred vehicle. They also have tax advantage vehicle, okay? During their retirement, all right? So how much money then they need to take it out? Same thing, okay? At the end is they want 150K net income, net, right? And then let's say, for example, if they have, they have the index universal life, this vehicle, okay, they can take 85,000. 85,000, does 85,000 need to pay the tax or not? No, right? So what does that mean? That means for them, they only need to take out 80,000 from their 401k or from their pension or from their annuity, those tax deferred place. Okay, so then the 80,000, only 80,000 need to pay the tax, but 85,000 from the index universal life, for example, if they do have one, okay, then they don't have to pay the tax. You see? So at the end is, only this 80,000 take out from the 401k need to pay the tax. So that means tax will be 15,000. So the end will be 150K. Yeah. So you following me? So in order for this couple to receive 150K net after tax withdrawal, okay, so they just need to take 80,000 from their 401k and also, 85,000 from their IUL. Okay, because again, this 85,000 from the index universal life, they don't have to no income tax consequences. Okay, just like what? Like when we take a shower, right? When we take a shower, we have the cold water with hot water, right? How many of you right here, when you take a shower, you only take, all the water come from the hot water? Not many, right? I don't know how many of you, but not me, okay? But okay, what I'm trying to say is, during our retirement, if our income come from, other vehicle, from the tax liability, look at the tax liability. If we have some tax defer or tax now or whatever, we need to pay the tax. And at the same time is we have some other money come from the tax advantage vehicle, then that will help us to lower down our total tax liability, right? In this case, the savings, what? $30,715 a year. Let me rephrase myself again. Your total saving during the retirement, $30,715 a year. Who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like to save $30,715 a year? Think about this one. Imagine this one. If you have $30,000 saving, or not saving, it's like you have 30,000 more than you can spend during the retirement. Isn't that great? I want to go to Hawaii like every 2 months. I want to go back to my home country, or I want to travel around the world, right? With this $30,000 saving or more you can spend. How wonderful is that? All right, right? So the other thing is, okay, some people might ask me is, hey, Kevin, so okay, I understand you say, you need to leverage tax, you need to, saving some tax, especially during the retirement. But tell me, okay, oh, I know, I have 401k, I take 80,000 from my 401k. Oh, I understand. Okay, but tell me, how can I take some kind of 85,000 from this vehicle called index universal life? How do I do that, right? Do you have this question? Okay, so let me just show you. This is one way that we can help. So the same thing, John again, okay, John, the previous John guy, right? 35 years old, still the same thing, okay? His protection amount start with 500,000, okay? Contribution, same thing, $24.50 a month, right? Earlier slide when we showed it to you is that he can maximize, he can leverage the maximize funding for like 3, 4, 5 years, 4 years also, right? That's it. That the policy can self-support itself, right? But how about if this John guy, okay, he just does the continuous saving 24.50 for 10 years, just 10 years, okay? That the total premium will be 294,000 into the policy, right? At the end, and then, from 11th year, he just stopped contributing into the policy, and that the policy value keep inside the policy, continue working for him. Okay, so let's take a look. At age 67, 68, when he retire, right? Look at this one. Okay, he can actually access the cash value from his policy starting from age 68 all the way down to age 90. $85,000 a year. No income tax, that's for one thing. And he can continue doing that until age 90. That means what? That means he can access what? Income tax free almost 2 million from his policy, almost 2 million. Let me repeat myself again, almost 2 million from his policy. And his contribution in the early years is how much? Less than 300,000. But years back, after he retires, he can relax, he can enjoy, he can travel around the world many times in a year, right? He can take out $85,000 a year, and from age 68 to age 90. That's one of the vehicle that we can leverage to balance our tax bracket when we retire. Isn't that great? Okay, so let me show you the other one. Okay, and I talk about a lot of the tax, how we can save, to save tax. But the other one is I want to mention a little bit about risk. Right here, risk. I want to just shorten this. In the financial world, risk management is the process of identification, analysis, acceptance, the mitigation of what? Uncertainty. Okay, we don't like any uncertainty, right? But there's so many things that we cannot control. So how can we manage the risk becomes a very important topic in our life, especially in our financial investment, right? Do you agree, right? Okay, so let's see. There are so many risks right here. I just list down, you can read it by yourself. Okay, so many risks involve our life. Have you ever heard that the life is always like a curveball, right? So sometimes we can just receive an email or a phone call that our lives could be totally changed upside down. But in the financial side is how we can manage our risk, right? Especially again, during the retirement. Okay, let me show you this one. When I say retirement, do you still remember earlier, Matthew mentioned about the different tax bucket, right? And then during this tax, it doesn't matter which tax bucket, they are so-called accumulation phase and distribution phase. Right now, I think most of us around here, I believe we all are in the accumulation phase, right? We still are working hard towards our retirement. Maybe, I don't know about your age, even though you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, most of the time, I think until maybe you're 70, or I don't know about you, maybe probably as long younger than 65 or 60, we are all in the accumulation phase. And during our accumulation phase, okay, actually, most of people will think, okay, the market will go down and go up and go down. It doesn't matter. Whatever goes down will go up, right? So actually it is true, because during our time, if we are still in the accumulation phase, time is our friend, right? Look at this chart. Okay, there are two accounts. Account A is the one on the upper side. Account B is the one on the lower side. Okay, so from the account A it is, okay, so he start with 100, both of accounts start with 100,000. Okay, so in the first year, this account A on the upper side, have 29% gain. The second year, 80% gain, 25%, 50%, all the way, up and down, up and down, up and down. But at the end of the, from age 40 to age 65, at the end of the 3 years has big drop. Okay, from drop 14%, 21%, 12%, and end up right here. Okay. However, if the account B, all right, also start with 100,000, but this account B's return rate is totally opposite from account A, which means what? The account B, the first 3 years, his return rate will be like -12, -21, -14, and then going up 10, 11, from this way, all the way right here, totally opposite from account A. However, guess what? Account B and account A, they end up at the same result. So that being said, is when we are in the accumulation phase, right? Even though the market goes up first, goes down later, or market goes up, goes down late first and goes up later, actually it's the same result. It's because we are in the accumulation phase. Remember this one. Right now, like I say, most of us, I believe all of us right here, we are in accumulation phase, right? If you are, you can just say, hey, yes, I'm in accumulation phase. You can type in the chat room, okay? You can type in, yes, yes, yes. Okay, change another perspective is, once we are in the retirement phase, okay, retirement phase, that means we are in the distribution phase. We are no longer working. We are no longer making money, okay? Let me show you this one, okay? There are two investors retire and start taking income at age 65. They all retire at age 65, okay? At two different times. They both take 5% annual income from their initial 100,000 investment. But, okay, their experiences outcome will be totally different based on when they retire, okay? Let me show you this one. Again, the blue one, investor A retires in 1994 when the beginning of the up market. So this is the investor A, right? So when he retires, even the market was up, okay? Even though he takes 5% from his retirement 100,000, but as you can see, the market was up, and even though he takes the retirement of fund from the portfolio, however, because the market was good, so at the end of 18 years later, back in the 2018, the investor A still have the almost 150,000 at the end of the 2018, right? And look at the investor B. Okay, investor B, he does the same thing like investor A, but the only difference is he chose to retire in 1999. Okay, so in 1999, do you remember what happened in the 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002? Right, dot-com bubble, right? After that, market, slowly come back until 2007. And then what's going on? 2007, 2008 and 9, boom, economic crisis, the whole world, big drop again, right? So as you can see right here, it starts with here, the investor B, right? He also has the 100,000 in the beginning. He also take 5% annual income from his investment, but due to the wrong timing, my friend, wrong timing. Look at this. At the end of the 2018, how much money does he still have? Zero, nada, no money at all. So I just want to bring out this one to you is how do you and me know when is good timing to retire? If you do know, let me know, because I want to know. But okay, here's the thing is the sequence of retirement is really tricky. And we don't know when is good timing to retire. Do you think this year's market is good? Whoa, good, right? Compared to past years, it's all-time high, right? S&P, Dow Jones, whatever, is pretty much all-time high this year, right? But do you know, will next year be all-time high again? Will market will correct itself next year? We don't know, right? So this will be a million question for you and me to think about, or even have to answer is, when is good timing to retire, right? When is the right timing to retire? Okay, let's take a look, continue going on our, actually, let's say, for example, okay, again, today we talk about some kind a little bit more towards to like retirement, because we are not just only right here just want you to sell you the IUL. That's it. Okay, you are exempt from the Washington long-term care tax. This is not what we do, because we want to do the holistic help for the family, because we are not just living in the moment. We also want to protect our family. At the same time is, we want to plan for our retirement too, right? Okay, so I just want to give you this another illustration right here, scenario for you to consider is, let's say, for example, Tom currently is 65 years old, okay? He retires, he has accumulated 1 million in his retirement account, okay? And then from age 65 to age 85, 20 years, he wants to withdraw 70,000 from his portfolio with 1% inflation every year. Okay, this is how it looks like. Oh, by the way, we run this S&P data. Okay, we just used historical data starting from 1970 for the 20 years. All right. So as you can see right here, he has the 1 million to start with. Every year, start taking out 70K from the year one, and every year just 1% inflation going up. And this is from 1970. Here's the historical data, S&P data looks like. Okay, so at age 85, he still has 445K saved inside his portfolio, right? Isn't that great? Pretty nice, right? Okay, every year he take 70K, by the way, this 70K, because this is his retirement account, pretty much like a 401K, right? Do you think this 70K need to pay the income tax? If you think that needs to pay the income tax, you can type in the chat room, yes. Or you think he doesn't have to pay the income tax, you can type in no. But let me tell you, because this is his retirement account from the 401K, then yes, he has to pay the income tax. Okay, so this 70K is not net. You have to pay the income tax. Okay, yeah. When you retire, same thing. When you retire, if you want to take the money out from your 401K, hey, IRS will knock on your door, pay the tax. Okay, so right now, I just saying is, how about, okay, let me ask you, how about if right now is the, do you still remember the previous slide is the return on sequential return, right? When market was down, then you still take the money out from your portfolio. That will worsen your total portfolio, right? So let's say, for example, if Tom has a different strategy, okay, that helped him, when market was down, like these 2 years, he doesn't have to take money from his portfolio. Again, if he has another vehicle to use. When market was down, okay, down 7%, but he doesn't need to take the money out from his portfolio, okay? Just like here, when I mark it down. This 5 year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say, for example, during this 5 years, which market was down, the next year, the following year, he doesn't take the money from his retirement account, from his 401K, right? If he can do that, okay, would that be make any changes? Would this 444,000 increase more? Do you think so? If you think so, you can just type in the yes, you can type in the chat room. Okay, so like I mentioned, okay, so what if Tom owns 500,000 IUL at age 45, okay, and he decides to contribute to the policy, not the total cost, okay, contributes to the policy. He contributes 7,000 a year into this the IUL and pay for 20 years, just pay for 20 years and boom, done, okay, and then annual return rate assume is 6.7. Okay, the cash value accumulated to age 65 is 233,000. Okay, this is what he has. For example, if he has this on the side, along with his 1 million, retirement account. So what would happen is like this. Okay, as you can see, we start with 1 million, right? When market was down, as you can see, right? Drop this first 2 years, market was down, okay? And then the market was down, right? See right here, but he decided not to take money from these 2 years, as you can see, right? Don't take money, but where can he take the money from? Oh yes, from his index universal life, from the cash value, right? 50,000, 50,000. And you might ask me again, hey, Kevin, how come I only take 50,000? Why Tom only needs to take 50,000 from his IUL cash value? Shouldn't he take the 70,000 or even with 1% inflation? Aha, do you know the answer? Again, because the money we take out from our index universal life is what? Oh, I hear you, income tax free, right? Yes, you are correct. So that's why, you know, even though when we take 70K, probably 70K from our retirement account, but after tax, roughly it's about 50K, right? So what he can do, what Tom can do is, again, when market was down, the following year, he doesn't take the money from his portfolio. Instead, he takes the money, he just take the money from his index universal life, 50,000, 50,000 for this 2 years. And then there's another year when market was down, right? Again, right here, as you can see, right here, did you see that? Nothing. He doesn't take out from his portfolio. He take it out just 550,000 again from his IUL. Same thing next year. Okay, same thing on this year, age 83, when he was in age 83, right? So he just take out 60,000 because there's 1% inflation, right? So right here is about 60%. He take it out from his index universal life. All right. So let me ask you, if you can just do a quick guess, what's the ending value for Tom if he does this way, has combination of the, you know, retirement account and also index universal life? If he has 2 vehicles, he can leverage, he can take the money from at the end of age 85, how much money he can still have inside his retirement account. Anyone want to take a quick guess? 1 million, 1.5, 2 million. All right, anyone? Okay, let me show it to you. Okay, for timer, oh, okay. So it's almost 3.6 million he can still have within his retirement account at age 85. You remember previous slide? How much money he can receive, how much money he can save, how much money he can still has in the retirement account at age 85, 45,000, right? And right here, 3.6 million. Which one do you like? Man, I want 6.587 million. So what does Tom need? What does Tom do differently? Okay, is he just opened the IUL at a time at age 45, protect the family with 500,000 K, at the same time saving 7,000 into this strategy for 20 years. Total, if you consider, okay, 20 times 7,000 is what? 140K, right? It contribute to the 140K. But look at outcome at age 85. Look at this outcome, 3.5 million. What he can still has vs 450,000. That if he doesn't have any other vehicle, if he doesn't have the like IUL, this vehicle to take the money out, it's a huge differences, right? Okay, so today I just want to give you some kind of idea, give you more angles about this IUL, how this great strategy can help us. Again, starting from the protection. Protection just if we live too short. Protection if we get sick, we have long-term care. Protection for us, if we live too long, we can utilize this cash value to be a complementary of our retirement income, right? So a part of that one, there are more tax strategy, tax benefit that we can use based on this great vehicle. Okay, so that's my sharing right now for today. So I hope you guys can get some ideas. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out one of us who invite you here. Then we have more, we can share more with you. Okay, yeah. Do we give you the time? Back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Wow. I learned so much from you and I love your energy. I hope everybody else also got the most from Kevin, because he's very experienced in the field, and basically he just gave you a very good nuggets on how you possibly can use your IUL to the max. Okay, Kevin, so as a closing, we just have 2 more slides. We just want to make a recap. So this is something that you guys can take notes on it, which is, do I have control over your screen?
Not yet, you need to ask.
There you go. Okay. Okay, there you go. So I want you guys to picture your personal finance. Okay, it's like a house. Okay, so imagine there's this house over here. Okay, so when you purchase a house, remember we always want to do the inspection, and the most thing that we scared about is whether there's something wrong with the foundation, right? Everything else is okay if it is accessories, but foundation, if the problem with the house is a big problem. So same thing with our financial house. So what does it mean? I mean, we all work right now, but we don't want to work forever, right? One day we want to just chill, retire, right? Enjoy. So where does our income coming from? As a foundation of our retirement income is we need guaranteed lifetime income. Okay, guaranteed meaning doesn't matter what happened to the economy, we are expecting that X amount of check every single month. So what are the way to get the guaranteed income? Number one is from the government, Social Security, right? But you and I know that by 2037, if they don't do anything, right? They already said that they will cut 30% of our benefit. So that's why it is smart and wise to have your personal pension plan. And many times it comes in the form of annuity. Okay, annuity is basically a personal pension plan that you can purchase through investment company that we represent. Okay, so these two things would give you the guaranteed lifetime income. Now, after you build the foundation, right? So what is next? So we need other income. So the guaranteed lifetime income is for you to pay the things that you can't skip. What is it? Your property taxes, your insurance, right? Your Medicare, food, all of the basic living expenses. But the gap, whatever that's on top of that, like things that you enjoy in life, right? Movies, travel, hanging out with friends, all that needs money, right? Shopping. So we start with the no market risk. So as a strategy, right? When we build something, we always want to build from remove the risk point of view first. Okay. So when you want to build something, just like you buy a house, why you want to do inspection? Because you want to remove the risk, right? So we always start from no market risk. What is the place that you can put, right? Which is bank savings, right? But bank savings doesn't give you much money, much income, right? But IUL, as Kevin has gone into it extensively, IUL is one of the forms that you can get income, also tax-free, no market risk. So it's a very effective way for you to withdraw income. Now, after you fund all of this, and if you still have extra, right, you can invest actually in a market risk part is the stock, bonds, mutual fund, ETF, 401k, IRA, and your rental property. Okay. Now the tax-free gain is basically the Roth, the VUL. VUL is another form of universal life, but instead of IUL only, IUL have the safety protection, they don't. It's basically like a 401k, right? And then municipal bonds. So this is how you plan for your retirement. So retirement plan is not equal to retirement income, okay? And what really matters when we retire is retirement income. It's not your retirement asset, okay? So keep this in mind. This is like your house. And one of the things is that the three things that you need to ask about your retirement asset and income is, what is the risk? Do you have strategy? Right, when the market not doing well. Number two is, how do you balance your tax burden when you retire, right? How do you take your retirement income? And the third one is, can you improve the flexibility? So we all love flexible, right? So yeah, this is kind of like a summary of the financial education that we're going to share with you. But of course, we always want to share with you about, again, why we are doing what we are doing, why we are doing a free public seminar, right? Why we are doing this continuously, because we would like to make a difference, You know, we all of the associates that talk today, we all come from, we don't know much about personal finance either, but through the continuous training and education from this company, we basically become very, very knowledgeable and experienced, and therefore we can do a better job for our family, and then we got to help other families too. So the reason why we are doing this is because we know that in a community, right? Many people, we go to work. A lot of us have W-2. I used to have W-2 too, right? I used to be an employee too. I watched my parents, you know, my dad was an employee for 2 companies, right? Exchanging. So what does W-2 means? Basically, you give your time and then you earn a living, okay? So, and the living expenses is increasing. I don't know whether you guys feel it or not, right? When you eat out today, it's a lot more than a year or 2 years ago. So with your living, paying debt, paying tax, many times we feel like we don't have enough saving, like we want to save more, but it seems like we cannot save enough, right? Now, this is Aegon. This is who we are. We work with, we partner with Transamerica, right, to help families to become financial independent. You know, there's so many people out there that is still waiting for the stimulus check, right? Waiting to get the funds, the support from the government. We want to do our part instead of depending on all that. You know, actually, you can make a difference for yourself, for your family, by having an access towards financial education, giving yourself a chance to put yourself in a systematic way to learn how money works. It's not here and there, search Google and all that, talking to friends. Those are just opinions. But to give yourself an access to a systematic financial education, okay, through our workshop, one-on-one, big events, right? And what do we teach, right? If you are a member of our company, right, you will learn all of this. Manage your cash flow, manage your debt, right? Should I pay off my debt first or should I start investing? Those are FAQ, right? Insurance, investment, how much should I buy? How much should I invest, right? We talk about all of this basically in our classes. The second is, after you learn, right? What is the bottom line after you learn? Of course, you want to get yourself into a plan that works for you, right? So we also partner with a lot of companies that can provide all of this. The third one is, there's so many people that left behind. Still, there's so many people. I'm amazed with, even right now, people say, I ask them, hey, so you know, right, January, you're gonna have extra tax. No, I don't know. I never heard about the long-term care tax, even until now, okay? So that's why we would like to invite you to jump in and then help us in delivering our mission, which is no family left behind, starting from yours, okay? And once you get your license, right, and once you get yourself educated and familiar with this, we will train you and you can start having a part-time income and build it up to full-time business and passive income. So with that, with being our member, right, what do you learn? You will learn some important skills for life. Leadership, communication, management. Whatever you learn through our company, right, is going to enhance your life because you can communicate better with your family, right? You can become a better parent. So with all that, actually, it's $125 one-time membership, and you can learn personal finance for yourself and also build a second income for yourself. Hey, just in case, if the current company makes some changes, right, you have a backup plan, or if you'd like to put your kids to a better private school or in a better neighborhood so that they can go to a better school, everything needs money. Or if you'd like to make a change in your career, you want to transition from employee to become entrepreneur so that you can have the flexible time that you have in control to spend time with your family, please, check out our platform. Talk to the person that actually invite you tonight and we'll be happy to share with you more about what we can do and how you can change your situation. So for that, I think we're going to close with the survey as usual, because we would like to know how we help you, whether today's session is helpful or not. So we appreciate your participation. Can we show the survey?
Sorry, there's some technical difficulties. I kind of got locked out, so I couldn't open the poll. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I think with that, do we have any Q&A?
You want me to? Do you see poll? I can launch the poll.
Please do, if you can.
I did. Do you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, can people participate?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. We have 25 people. All right, 25 people. Let's do it. On the scale 1 to 5, did you increase your knowledge from today's workshop? I bet you guys do. If you don't, it means you're not paying attention. Do you want to, 3, a lot of it is 3. Oh, I'm interested why. Do you want to learn more about unlimited access to financial education through our education platform? Yes. Okay. All right. I hope we get a better participation here. When was the last time you have financial checkup? Recently, never have one. Okay. So if you never have one, hey, take advantage of our free financial checkup. Okay. Would you like to have access to our complimentary financial checkup? Okay, we did that. Would you be interested to get licensed and start an income? 3 people say yes, that's good. We can always use 3 more people to learn more about what we do, and hopefully, can change your family's life. All right, thank you, everybody. Please get in touch with the people that invite you, and so that you can stay connected. You can stay connected with us. Okay then. Good night, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.
Good night. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Merry Christmas. Thank you. Hi, Debbie. Nice to see you.
Hi, Sinang. Good to see you again.
No, I have another thing to do. I don't have time to go see you guys. Actually, my office is not far away from you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Printing, like embroidery. I drive past your office.
Oh wow! Stop by. We should meet. We should catch up. Have a coffee.
Yeah, but I get out late. Like 7 or 7 o'clock p.m.
Oh, okay. Okay. What time do you start?
I start late because of traffic. I start 9 or 10, sometimes 11. It's my business. It's kind of like my own time.